Hello, folks, for our Wednesday webinar session. And I have a really great guest again. You know, it's kind of boring that we are always great guests, but every guest I have is some special. So let me tell you the story about Phil Claxton, the founder of Desk Director, that Jamie Powter from Australia, one of our clients, told me a story about this product they have. And during the conversation with my clients or with our clients, I kept selling this product because I really believed that product. I didn't know anything about this product, but it was so great. The Pete Jamie told me, so I was thinking it's like high time to have and meet with those guys, and we had a talk last week, and this was like really crazy good. So it was like same page everywhere. So I wanted to get Phil Claxton to you because I think he had lots of great stories around what they learned during this stuff and their product and the whole approach. So Phil, just introduce yourself, your story about where you came from, and it's really great. I'm sorry, but I have like a special feeling with New Zealand. Is like that was like from Hungary. I had two places to go, either to New Zealand or Canada. Canada won. Now I have to shovel the road and everything, so I don't know whether I made the right decision or not. But I've been to New Zealand for 2 months before, and that was like so good. And it was like you are living in a really great place, Phil. So.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the time, and as you said, we had a great conversation last week. So I mean, Phil's my name. I've been in this service industry, the IT service industry, since I left school back in. I'm still reasonably young. Back in 1994, I think that was, and done the whole backroom engineer roles, that sort of thing. Also worked in advertising for a while as a IT manager, but eventually found my way into a company down here in New Zealand called Lancom, which is an MSP. They started back in 1988 and started doing this whole fix-free MSP thing before it was kind of fashionable, before we even had a name for it. Back in about 2000, we had our first fully managed fixed-fee contract come on board. And so I found myself as an engineer there, and then eventually worked my way up and was the service delivery manager and the operations manager. We called them a general manager down here. And that's kind of my story where I found. So, really heavy into the engineering side. I really miss that now, Frank, to be honest with you. But yeah, lots and lots of work in putting in things like ConnectWise, which we did about, must be 2007 that was. So we put ConnectWise in a while back. I found and put in things like the RMM products. So yeah, still a real techie at heart. I miss a lot of that. But yeah, where I find myself today is I'm full-time at Desk Director, which is a product we developed for the MSP industry out of what we'd learned in Lancom.
It's perfect. So, like we had a call with Chris Day. We still have an MSP, spin out something, Bry Gage, Eric Dozel, same stuff. And I'm always interested on the guys that you must found something like on your previous life, like in this MSP stuff, which was like not right. You was not able to get it, so that's why usually these spin-off projects are coming. So what was your thinking that first of all, what was missing from the industry? Why you wanted to do anything about that? So what was your, I don't know, the buzz, how you started actually this whole thing? What was missing?
So yeah, that happened about, I guess the epiphany happened maybe maybe as much as 4 years ago, but about 3 odd years ago. We're successful MSP, we got to about 20 staff, and this whole cloud thing started happening. Every now and then we would lose customers, we would interview them afterwards and try to understand what's going on. And we started to really realize that we weren't doing the best job when it came to customer service, that customers would leave us, we would try to understand why they'd done so, and it became quite obvious to us that we weren't doing enough to make them understand what we were doing for them. We would put these great tools in and spend all our time talking in tech speak to them about how we've brought our RMM of the day, and that's keeping things going. And we quickly started realizing that really it was about the thing we forget so much is about the client experience, what they're getting from
Okay.
us. We started realizing that our best engineers weren't the ones who were necessarily great at fixing problems, but they were great at fixing the customer, if that makes sense. They were great at understanding and keeping them happy, keeping them informed, and they would be prepared, or at least the customer would be more prepared to put up with a lesser service from them if they felt like they were involved in the outcome and they felt they were working with someone who kind of cared and trusted and had a great relationship with them. So um, there's this kind of whole awakening us that ultimately, and it's kind of simple to think about, but how important our customers are to us and how important it is their experiences in the service we do, which is, I don't know, where I find myself today, I think something I find really strange now that we're kind of over the other side of this journey, that we don't spend enough time as MSPs thinking about their experience and what they're getting and the value that they get from us. And it's just, I don't know, it's almost like that, the whole Matrix thing,
Yeah.
you have the pill and then you suddenly realize that actually what my customers who pay my bills at the end of the month get as an experience is probably the most important thing above all else, above all this operational efficiency, above putting in the best RMM product. How much they love and their experience, how much they love the services we deliver is so important.
Feel it's like I really like that, and when we get this call just a couple of minutes ago, I said you I didn't have any questions. I didn't prepare for that meeting, and I didn't even know how we are going to call this stuff. But I think it's going to be like customer experience, and what I would like to address, like, we are here together, and I think it's really important what you are talking about, customer experience. Because that was like made Steve Jobs and the whole Apple things like up and running. It's like go back a little bit, I guess, and try to figure out what exactly customer experience means for a customer and what the vehicles of that, what the, like a little bit deconstruct this whole notion to be able to understand what we need to influence or what we need to see, whether we are shipping this experience or not. Because you're totally right. Lots of, let's say, service providers like me and you as well, and everybody is just so into our stuff. Like an MSP, like you are pricing, packaging, figuring out Autotask or ConnectWise and everything. And the end of the day, you are missing one piece, is a client, right? So, and you are spend so much time on delivering and figuring out your service that you don't really see how they see you.
That's right, yeah.
So just let me know about your thinking that based on customer experience, what customer experience means for an MSP client.
Sure, absolutely. I think customer experience for an MSP client is the same for anyone delivering service. We're in the customer service industry. We happen to be, or the professional service industry. We're delivering a service, the same as the restaurant down the road is delivering a service, and the experience that our customers get is so important. And so one of the things I think fundamentally we get wrong a lot is that the whole notion of being able to set and exceed expectation. That's kind of customer service 101. When someone has if you set expectation on what they're going to get,
Yep.
And then you exceed it, that's how you build great customer relationships. The challenge we have in the MSP world and the engineering world is we don't do a great job of even setting that expectation. We do things like create service level agreements, which is a way of us communicating to some people in the company in a contract the minimum level of service they're going to get. And what happens is that gets filled in, signed, put in a drawer maybe, and the next thing you know, you're the new MSP on the block. And the first time you interact with the staff at that company, you're still not giving them a great level of expectation of what they should get. And what we realized at our MSP ultimately is that when people have a problem, their ideal outcome is that it gets fixed now. And if we don't do a great job of telling them why it isn't going to be resolved now or very soon, then it's going to be very easy for us to disappoint them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and then
that makes sense.
and then we disappoint them, and then those little things build up, and then ultimately they're not getting a great experience out of your service. So I think that's one of the fundamentals that we're coming to realize, that expectation is an area that we do a really bad job in the MSP world.
It's really,
A really bad job.
it's let me tell you two stories. Like the first story I recall now about what you said about setting expectations, that we have this kind of questionnaire to the prospect or existing clients kind of thing. And I went with a real meeting with an MSP like a year and a half ago, and it's really interesting. He was sending this questionnaire to their existing client, and we went there to see what's going on. The guy said that, you know what, something is wrong, because the guy is let's say that was a question about, are there any responsibility about backup or something like that, and the different like service areas, and the guy didn't said yes for those which the guy was delivering. So we went to the meeting, and it was like the guy said, you know what, it's possibility that you do it, but I didn't know that. You never
Yeah.
send me an email about that. And the whole and why was it really important is, but first you said expectation. You think you are in the same page, right? And it was like a really interesting core, because you service in a specific level, right? And you think they are like, you are the rock star, right? Because you are delivering that stuff, and they don't even know what you are delivering, because when you done the job of signing the contract, they just don't know. So the expectation is that really important, I think, to set it and be aligned on that all the time. Because imagine somebody is going to this client and saying, what we do that, which the current provider is doing, but the client is not, it doesn't really know. They can kick out the existing provider, but it wasn't really any problem with that. So it's going back to the differentiation factors, right? So first,
Yeah.
expectation. Second, how can I give you the sets of expectations which you can't get from the rest of the MSP industry? So how do you think about this type of, 101 have expectation, and second is some kind of differentiation? How do you see
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely. Differentiation is, I think, another real fundamental thing that we miss a lot in the MSP game. We spend a lot of our time calling ourselves, actually, we spend a lot of time comparing ourselves with others. We call ourselves an MSP, so then we create this title of MSP, so then we all want to become MSPs. Effectively, it's just a game of us all wanting to be effectively the same, which goes against all the principles of marketing and sales, which is being different. So if all we do is spend all our time making ourselves the same as everyone else, we shouldn't be surprised that we are struggling to bring customers on, because we're not different, if that makes sense. So differentiation is a really important thing for us. And we discovered that as well, that the challenge we have is a lot of the time the consumers, our customers, our clients don't really understand what we're doing. We have a great understanding what we do, but they don't, and we don't spend enough time putting ourselves in their shoes. I had a great story, or at least principle, or way to think about that we try to use every now and then at our MSP, which is to take one of our staff, plonk them in the room, and then you say to them, your role in this meeting is to be the customer. You're not the MSP, you're the customer. Sit there, listen to this project plan, listen to this whatever this conversation is we're going to have with them, but you be the customer and put yourself in their shoes. And it's amazing how much you kind of learn by doing that. Another way to do this, this funny story, is you just take an inanimate object like a teddy bear, put it in the room, have your conversation, and then lean over to them and say, okay, Mr. Customer, what do you think of that? And I guess it's just little funny ways to be able to think, like, put yourself in the shoes of the customer and understand really what are they, how does that, how is that going to appeal to them? Do they really care about what I've just spent the last half an hour talking about? How is that going to really make a difference to them?
It's interesting what you're saying, because I'm checking all the website of MSPs, because we have like a demand generation practice as well. and 99% of the website is about us, our services, about us, our management team, our why we are better, things like that. Nothing about the customer. Nothing. What's your challenge? What's your options? What's your opportunities? What's your problems, probably, or how we could help on that issue, not just firing up all the banners with this type of vendors. We are Lenovo vendors, whatever vendors. It's just doesn't make really any sense. And the other story which I wanted to tell you is that our background, or my background, is more likely general management. So I was leading our company with manufacturing and everything, like 120 people kind of thing. And we bought an MSP because it was like, it's in a family business. Everybody's hobby getting to a business. So it's like, that's how it's working. And actually the thing was that when I realized this kind of expectation, that just imagine that I'm working on my environment, and I hear that the manufacturing is down because the server went down.
Yep.
Okay. Not so much I can do. I'm not calling the guys. I'm not doing anything. It's just that's the way. I'm not really happy, but that's not affecting myself personally in this issue. But it was like a big loss and everything, what you can imagine, right? It's not working and things
Absolutely,
like that.
Yeah.
And second day, the third time went off my Wi-Fi on my computer. I was like shouting to the guys.
Yep.
Now come here and you are fired if you are not coming.
Yep.
And I was thinking, that's just insane. My Wi-Fi was like nothing, a big issue, comparing that the whole manufacturing plant was like down. But the perception of
That's right.
my thing was so much different. And who is going to negotiate you? Who is going to make a judgment call? Who is going to be the next MSP? Is me, the CEO. And that's like interesting, that how little we serve the main stakeholder.
That's right.
And it's probably only I'm the CEO of the world who is thinking that way, but probably others is well. What do you think about this, like 80-20 rules, or I don't know? So it's like how you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so to leap on one of the things you said there, perception. When it comes to service delivery, perception is the most important thing.
Yeah.
There's a great TED talk by a guy called Rory Sutherland. He's a advertising executive at what is it, Saatchi and Saatchi, I think they are, in London. Anyway, if you look him up on TED, you watch his great talk, and one of the things that he really focuses on is how the perception of service or perception of customer service is the same thing as the real service. The way it's perceived by the person receiving it is exactly the same. So there's no such thing as value, only perceived value. So great story that he gives that ultimately, if you actually, one of the great stories is about Royal Mail in the UK, how they spent, I can't remember what it was, millions, it's probably hundreds of millions of dollars taking their next day delivery of letters from 95% of the time to, I think it was 98% of the time. And then they surveyed customers afterwards and went, after they supposedly exceeded this, and asked them, so how often do you think it is that letters are delivered the next day? And the average was about 60 to 70%. So ultimately their customers are telling them that they only think 60 to 70% of the time their letters are coming the next day, but they've just spent hundreds of millions of dollars increasing it by 3%. So I think us as MSPs, we spend so much of our time focusing on these things that make incremental differences that we think our customers will care about, but they don't.
Exactly.
And we're almost afraid sometimes to ask them what they care about. What do you want me to do, and deliver a service they want, rather than trying to do what the other guy down the road does, trying to do what is operationally makes sense for us, if that makes sense. Some of the best MSPs we come upon that I see aren't the ones that are owned by technical people. Let's face it, a lot of our MSPs are started by technical owners, and there's nothing against that. It's just some of the most successful ones that I've seen are the owners, or they have a second in charge, or someone that influences them who thinks about the customer, who are kind of sales oriented, and that's the relationship piece. At least if I can summarize it from my experience, it's the understanding of the outcome rather than the service delivery, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like it's still the IT is a big black box for most of the executives, and if we agree that they are the most important stakeholders, what we can do first of all to show. First, we were talking about like customer experience, like then we set expectation kind of thing, and who is the main stakeholders. So what could be, because we are talking about perception. Of course, we are not talking about bad service, how to see the bad service better. It's not what I'm talking about. I assume that service is like world class. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
But the problem is the communication of this world class service and how the other people can perceive this stuff. And my question, or just move forward in how and which way can we influence in a conscious way. It's like not unconsciously that we are great or things like that. But what's the 80-20 rules? What the 20% of our thinking or doing, and we can create this perception. For example, like in our case, in our MSP, my CEO on the MSP was checking all the time service guys based on, send me an email. And he was checking how the guy was communicating. Because at the end of the day, this is about communication. Because
that's right.
99% they don't know you screwed up or not. And it doesn't matter. It's like the most doctors was sued based on like wrong treatment, who didn't listen to the client and who didn't apologize. These people was like sued. It's nothing. It was nothing to do about the performance and everything. It was based on communication. So the same stuff applies, I guess, is that how we are able to use those communication channels like quarterly business reviews, yearly whatever, tickets, and when we have these touches with the client, and just do a little bit better in everywhere, right? So because in this case we can show them. So you get lots of clients, like 200 clients you have, and how you see the best practices here. So what's the easiest things you can do?
So, okay, but there's a few things, I guess, from our experience I could share that we've done at our MSP, I think, to work on and improve that. So we have an account manager. It's a sort of semi-dedicated role for us.
Okay.
They visit a larger percentage of the customers every month. One of the things we learned that made a big difference is we got away from the standard reporting we used to do, which was all about server disk space. None of the customers really cared about that. They cared about service, the service we were doing. They cared about that niggly little problem for that person down in accounts and what we did to resolve it. So we moved away from this this model of giving them graphs and charts on server disk space, because they really could care less, and spent more of the time focusing on maintaining a list of everything that the customer cared about, spending time understanding what their business goals were. So what do they want to do as a business for the next 12 months, and how can we as IT help that? And then every time we met with them, we would talk about making sure we pointed out the wins that had happened in the last month. So-and-so had a problem, we solved it, we got them going, this is how we did it. We spent a lot of time focusing on how we can fix the customer rather than fixing the problem. So when we sit with our team, we talk to them about fix the customer first, then fix the problem. So ask the person experiencing a problem, what can we do to get you going straight away? That doesn't have to be a technical solution. That could be, I can't print, is there a printer down the corridor? Let me get you going on that. Fix the customer first, then fix the problem. So that's was an important part of understanding what the customer cared about and not being afraid to ask them regularly what did they want to get from these meetings, not try and assume what we were going to do with them, assume what we were going to present to them. So that's one thing. Another thing, realization for us is that going back to that sort of 80-20 you said before, those important people at the customers, those VIPs, we realized that actually for a long time there we were trying to talk about giving everyone the same level of service. And so we'd say to them, look, we've got this SLA, so you're going to get great service, just like the guy down the corridor is going to get great service. But ultimately, those VIPs want to get better service. They're a senior in the company. They're used to getting better levels of service, frankly, and they it almost works better for us if we recognize that they are senior, they are putting yourself in their shoes more costly if they become ineffective. So we make a point of actually making every request that comes from those senior people in the organization, they get the highest priority. They are resolved above everything else. And that's actually made a big difference to us in service delivery as well. But we don't hide the fact that they are VIPs either. So and there was another realization for us that actually people are important and people like to feel important. They like to feel like they are, they've reached a level in the company. They like to feel like we recognize that as well. So we mark them as VIPs and give them a VIP level service.
It's really interesting what you're saying. I recall something from my past is that I'm a kind of IT savvy type of guy, like most of these MSP people. And you remember, or I remember, I'm helping all the time my father and my mother, who was in the business, and like how to download the SD card, Nikon, whatever, how to do treating, basic stuff. Because I was like the enabler for using devices, using PCs, how to send mail, kind of thing. And that was really visible because they wanted to do something, and there was like different obstacles, and I was like the guy who was getting rid of these obstacles. And that was that in the MSP space, I think that's 90% of the MSP stuck in this mindset that you ask me when you are not able to move forward, right? Excel not working, whatever. I know lots of people talking about proactive things, but it's proactive things just in hardware and software side. It's not about the client side. So let's think about the following. Now an executive learn how to send email, learn how the printer is working and things like that. And all the MSPs did a really great job to fix problems before it was happening, right? So these guys are not going to go back to the MSP to ask something. So the MSPs can figure out what's the next problem you might have. Do you use like a to-do application on your iPhone? Yeah. Is it synchronized with all the devices? Are your calendar is like synced and everything? And if you go into someone's real life, he's going to say most of the time, no, nobody set me up. Because they are not that tech savvy. Yeah, it's iCloud and everything is still, if you are just doing Apple stuff, it's still complicated, right? It's still not just plug and play kind of thing. So what I was thinking is that for our service, it was really important to address those type of latent problems and show them what they could have with all the stuff we created for them, like every device and everything. And these are cheap. And what we did, and that's just a story and example, is that most people think about how to make money or cloud kind of thing and all the stuff. You are in a service business. You are not delivering the IT infrastructure, that's for sure. Now it's not the money there. But what one of our guys did, he just checked what the different executives on the different clients, what type of applications they are using. And when they get an update, of course, he was like doing no how's it working, and send an update. You know what, Evernote can do that now because I know that you like that stuff. And it was like nothing, right? It was like the guy is doing for his spare time. But how is like and this, I know it's totally insane that the guy sending over a news about Evernote can change the perception of your services, which is so complex.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's the truth. Fortunately and unfortunately, of course. So
Yeah, I agree completely. The like you said before, IT service for them is a black box. So for the same reason, they don't understand always what you're doing for them. So some of those things that they can understand are a great way to differentiate yourself and deliver a great service. They don't have to be big, grand things
exactly,
either. So
exactly.
small things that make a big difference is what our MSP talks about all the time, helping the guys think about what small thing could we do that could make a huge difference to them in their own personal lives. And what the example you gave is a perfect one. There's so many awesome software as a service apps or apps they can put
Yeah,
on their phone,
and
and
just
as you
let
said,
them
being that
exactly.
enabler for them.
Or just let's say, so how many people, how many MSPs went to the client and, you know what, I know you are doing B2B, you have a sales team, let me teach you how LinkedIn is working,
Mm,
because they just
we
don't
know a lot.
know. We know by
We know a lot. We
yeah,
don't share what we know
yeah, exactly.
without.
And the bigger thing, we don't think it's value, because what we thought is the value when I go to the Microsoft whatever course and I fix a huge server, and that's the
Mm,
knowledge. That's they can't get. But I believe that these are like which common sense, or everybody knows that kind of thing. It's like so much information on the net, so much you can't just see the essence, right? So
yeah.
that's like I think a great example how to help perceive your service, because if you are proactive there and if you know those stuff, it's always care, or find an infographic about their business and send them over opportunities. Lots of stuff is just really undervalued based on MSPs, but it's like giving a lot of value to the client, and how you are able to lots of people ask, okay, how can I start business conversation? When you are fixing their environment, that's a business conversation. It's not a technical
Sure.
conversation, like
Yep.
personal productivity or whatever. And my question is that because you might see the different way of communicating with the clients, and I think your little tool is really great on that. This creates a kind of special opportunity for the MSPs to be there on these guys' desktop. Uh,
Yeah.
our MSP has a similar kind of thinking, but in a really 1.0 thing. Like,
Sure.
we wanted to have like an R logo on their
Yep.
desktop and open up
Yep.
and have something. And just tell me about what do you see here is the main thing about that, or how is it working? So how we could use like MSPs this little feature to make it happen. What we are talking about, how we can have a better perception and
Yep.
better user experience.
Great. Yeah. Well, yeah. So we developed Desk Director that few years ago, and obviously I've found myself as the founder of that. So yeah, for all those reasons I've discussed, we realised that we need to do a much better job improving the client experience, and our way to do that was to develop what has eventually now become Desk Director, which is a product that we give to our customers. It's all about being there when they have a problem, or if they ever have a question. So it's an application we give to them that sits on their machine that's very, very easy for them to use, automatically logged in. So we want to take all the barriers out of the way of them being able to get to requesting support from us and accessing quotes and so on and so forth. So we've, over time, developed Desk Director, and will continue to become this one place they can go to learn anything and everything about IT. So we're really on a mission to make Desk Director that platform, that place. So that's the whole concept behind Desk Director, is being there and being able to deliver service easily, but also help the MSP differentiate themselves using it, and use it as a way to do all those things that I was talking about before, be able to help set expectations. And so we're not there
Yeah.
yet on Desk Director. We're on a mission to get there, but the theory behind it is being able to use context, being there when they have the problem, be able to know the time of day, who it is, the machine they're at, be able to bring that all together so that when we get a request from a customer, we can understand who they are, So we have that continue to have that personal relationship with them, but use those what we call the context, knowing the time of day and various other things to be able to deliver the service that they want rather than the service we're supposedly contracted to deliver. So it's kind of our mission is to be able to do that, is to be able to deliver what customers want.
What I like this kind of approach is like when I get it when I get this idea from Jamie Poulter. He said me only one thing first, that you know what, Dinesh, there are like lots of Microsoft-based education there,
Yeah.
and we have a specific question whether you are like, this is like a maturity type of question, that are you providing education for your clients or not, and are you providing their context of their environment, like folder structures, rules, regulations, whatever kind of thing. And what what I found is that you can put those stuff into this like desk director kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when a client is opening up, they see lots of things, which is like, okay, I have my question in Excel, I go there like a course. Or I can go there and figuring out like where I can find different kind of folder, how we structure, what the rules about that, things like that. So I really like these stuff, because I'm a sales type of guy, and when I go to a client and tell a story and show data, that's the two principle. Opening up the screen and show them, click here, that's what you can here get, da 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 da, and it tells the story of the user experience right away. And that's really visible, and that's visible for them, and they can understand it. That's why I really like it, and that's why I encouraged other clients of ours to check it out, because I believe that these type of little gems, which like worth much more than how sophisticated your security around your whatever data center are, which you spend like years. And I know that it's a kind of problem with technical people, that the what's marketing part and what's the delivery part, or where is the value, but we have to be a little bit more marketers, I guess, a little bit showing what we have in their frame of reference, not our frame of reference. So what do you see?
I think that's the big thing. We do need to become and think of ourselves as marketers, and I think, and education, as you say, is at least in our experience, one of those fantastic ways, really largely untapped way that we can give perceived value to a customer, and it's about helping them be better, helping them solve problems for themselves, helping them learn about other technologies, giving them quick access to information. So it's not all about us billing them by the hour or being a revenue stream. It's about adding value to the relationship and making yourself, as a result, more embedded in that client, more sticky, obviously, as a result.
Exactly.
They're going to get more value from what you do. And there isn't a great deal of cost other than time on your part to be able to do that. One of the great things many of our desk director partners do, and our MSP does, is go during those meetings with customers, say to them, look, what are the top 5 things, or what are the 10 things that you really just wish you could do yourselves that you're having to ring us about all the time?
Yeah.
Because let's see what we can do to help you do that. And that's not about me trying to get extra revenue from it. That's me helping them solve little problems in their business that can make a huge difference to ultimately the way they perceive you.
And feel now, like 5 years ago, lots of people didn't really want to figure out themselves by Google. But now I keep seeing people are solving technical problems by Google. And your biggest competition is like Google. And they can, so when I see an executive guy is just checking out Google because they have some devices, whatever problem, and he could figure out faster than a tech. And then he's asking, okay, guys, so what you are doing here, if I could make this stuff. And that's like so embarrassing, but I think most of us realize some tech-savvy somebody picking out the problem because it was like their specific something. But that's really a threat, because if we are not able to show that what we do and how we do it, and that's gonna be like. So if you focus, or I think if you are focusing on the what was the value two, especially 1 year ago, setting up an infrastructure which is working and everything, then you are missing the point, because
Yeah.
people, people just pushing everything to the cloud without knowing and caring anything about security or stuff, right? Why? Because it's that convenient, and that's all. Period.
Yeah. Yep.
And people make mistakes, and just they are like if you just think about like an iPhone, just sharing your pictures, how to do or where to do or whatever, it's like really complicated in a way, because there's so many options, and it's Facebook and whatever. It's really complicated, right?
Yeah.
And then once more, it's happening what was like in the 80s. In 80s, that was like a notion that how that's a teenager living in that particular house. You go to the house and you can say in 5 seconds there is a teenager living there.
Joy.
Do you know the answer?
Yeah. No, I don't. Go on.
Actually, you go to the VCR and see whether the clock was set. That means that was a
Funny. Yes.
teenager there, because nobody was able to set the VCR's
The
clock, right?
PCR. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's happening again. So my mother is not asking me about how to get out of the stuff in dinner. I just can't, how to share, what's going to show. I'm just afraid. I don't want to share something which they have problems. It's not a problem of what we thought an obstacle, like how to put the SD card and get down the pictures. But still there are unseen problems which is on the line. Just we have to raise those problems and make them visible for the clients most of the case. So it's a huge opportunities for IT companies if you are focusing on the right things, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We have to be ready that and think about the fact that the technologies we're supporting today aren't going to break anymore. That's just not our focus anymore. Our focus is about enabling them, bringing new ways for them to be able to work that they never considered before, and understanding that the tools are there to be able to, for them to be able to solve the problems themselves. They don't always want to be able to do that, and we can be there and be that enabler for them. The Forrester Research, if you follow them, they do a lot of research around customer experience, and it's worth just going there and checking out. They had a report came out earlier this year where they analysed across industries really what the source of differentiation is across globally. What's been the real source of differentiation in companies, and their conclusion really is that we're in the age of what they call the age of the customer. We are in the age of where the customer has to come first. The companies that will succeed and really survive the next period are those that understand the experience and spend their time thinking about how their customers are going to get a great experience. The information age, incidentally, was the previous age.
Exactly.
We're through that. And that's where MSPs were developed in that industry. It's time for us to start thinking about the customer.
Yeah, perfect. And my question is that, or what we could see on that is like talking about a customer is like an open-ended stuff. Fixing a virtualization is like, you know what's going on, right? Having an issue, going to a service which nobody tried before, like, okay, if you have a problem with productivity, how we make money on that, I don't know, we try, figure out, right? So most MSPs, or that's like human nature, you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. If you want to go to this new stuff, which is not really new, but it's a little bit new way of thinking in that area, because you can be really secure behind Microsoft, behind big companies, but now you have to go out and check what's going on with the client, what they need, what's the problem of that particular law firm, and that's like huge opportunities if just a little bit of a change. And lots of people ask like, okay, that's fine. How do you make money on that? And the question or the answer is, can you show the value or not?
Absolutely.
Of course, if you show the value, you can make money, right?
Absolutely. I think we can't be afraid to try and test things out. That's one of the things we've learned a lot in the software game the
Yeah.
last couple of years. Is the
Jesus. Yeah.
most important things you learn in the software game is testing out a hypothesis and seeing if it's going to work.
Yeah, it's like
I
this
absolutely
lean startup stuff is just
yeah
have a hypothesis, go out with the market, see what's going on, have a feedback, and not go back to the ivory tower and build up the big thing.
yeah
It's like it's
that's
I don't know how you
absolutely
bear it. I bear really badly. So it's like it's really bad. You go out with a good idea, they go back, fire back. It's not working. Da, da, da. It's like it's really painful actually. But that's how we progress in a much faster way, right? So that's
absolutely. It goes against what we've always thought. So I'm a service delivery person, so the first thought for me was always, oh, how are we going to do that? So I've had to relearn that as well, and that really what we should be doing is testing out a hypothesis.
yeah,
So the next customer you go see, try something out new. Try a new way of delivering service. Don't listen to the service manager inside you. Try and do something new for them. See what happens. You might succeed, you might fail, but you might find yourself delivering developing and finding a whole new way to be able to sell yourself as an MSP that you didn't before. And it doesn't have to be a fundamental change.
yeah,
You don't
exactly.
have to change your whole business. You
Yeah.
just try it at the next meeting you go to.
Yeah, actually, that's I think that's the best is for example, like what I found is like people are starting using this type of reports. What we are generating, this type of stuff is like lots of people think about Danesh. It's like lots of questions, lots of it's too complicated, whatever, rah, rah, rah. And I push them to try out. And when they come back from the client, you know what? We raised only two stuff from the 200, and that's like enough for the next quarter for the client. Small stuff. You have to believe that it's not some groundbreaking big whatever you have to do. It's just some simple idea. Start it, believe that, tell the story, and that's all. So
Yeah.
I really believe that. Phil, just I could do this like in hours. And I like to ask you, like what I'm always asking to my guests, that just give us three takeaway or three advice or three things which you should consider about like customer experience. So
Yep.
what would you suggest to really actionable, do it really quickly, and we can make some changes in our practice.
Sure. Let's see, three. Well, certainly one of the big things for us was start thinking about, and like I said before, start thinking about the customer and their outcomes. So
Okay.
what you should do at your next client meeting, ask them, make sure at least 20, 30% of that conversation is about them
Yeah.
and what's important to them. What would they want us to do? Don't worry about the agreement we currently have. What do you want from us? And what's stopping you do what you want to do? And without a focus or worry about additional revenue for yourself. So start listening to customers a lot more and asking them what they want. Sit with your team and next time you're sitting with your team, should I say, ask them about some of the things maybe they've encountered. Maybe ask them every now and then to write down an encounter they had with a customer that went that maybe if we'd given them something, a free tool, a free something, if they were using some other system, it might solve that problem better. Don't worry too much about standardization because remember, I think we're in the point now where we should start trying some new things.
Yeah.
So
That's
way
great.
too much focus on standardization. That's two things. The third thing for me would definitely be about education. Would it be about thinking about the ways we can deliver value that we didn't do before? So start thinking about ways you can differentiate yourself by using education, by helping the customer solve problems without them coming to you. It sounds like I'm losing revenue, but ultimately I'm adding more value, and the customer will feel better and more talented through that process and feel better in that relationship.
That's just perfect. Like we are fixing their emails for years, and just raise their hands who given to the client like basic email time management course?
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically nobody, because hey, time
Absolutely.
management is not ours. Why? It's about using this email what I hosting to you. So one last question,
Go
and
on.
I'm really interested on that. How do you make this Christmas with a short sleeve stuff and plus 30 degrees in middle of the summer?
How do we do? Well, Christmas and summer. Yeah, it's interesting. I've grown up with it all my life, so I am a bit envious of Christmas and winter. I spent 6 years in the UK, so I kind of got a bit used to it. But yeah, Christmas and summer basically involves eating just about as much as you eat, but
and,
having
and,
to go
and
outside in the
and you,
sweltering
you
heat.
go to the local Walmart or something and you are buying like artificial snow and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we do. I suppose there's a bit of that. We spray snow on the windows. It does seem strange, but yeah, we have our Christmas meal and then go out and jump in the pool.
Holy
So
cow.
it's certainly different for us, that's for sure.
Phil, thank you again for your wisdom and lots of
No problem.
information. I think that's customer experience stuff. It's if we just get that, hey, think about that, think through what the clients experience based on our service. I think that's our worth to listen, because it was like that's the only thing which we can do is like a lot. So
Yeah.
thank you very much again, and
Oh, my
and
pleasure.
keep
And
working and make this desk
thank you.
director better and better and better and better, how we grow, how you grow it and have a big success on that. I'm
Thank
totally
you.
an advocate, so I'm convinced and everything. So just thank you very much for the
My pleasure.
call.
My pleasure. Look, if the same here. I had a great time. If anyone wants to talk more about the experience, I'm not talking about desk director, just wants to talk about that experience, feel free to,
Yeah. So ask
hit me up,
Phil.
give
I
me an
guess
email. I'd
he's
love to
feel
have a
free, and
conversation.
we try to do this kind of course, not salesy. So of course you find out that's directly the cool stuff, but I think he's like a great blogger and have every week like a small video about something. So just make sure
Yeah.
you are following. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Perfect.